Do I have a large frog in my hair? Something's crawling out of my scalp. Joaquin Phoenix. Welcome to the INTJ Equation, a channel on typology and psychology from the lens of unhealthy INTJ. My name is Jeff and I'll be your host. And today I'm going to do my continuation of Cluster A personality disorders. And I'll be talking about Schizotypal Personality Disorder, STPD, from here on out. I don't know if Joaquin Phoenix has this disorder. It was just one of the best quotes that I could find. People with STPD kind of had these odd magical beliefs, which I'll get more into the video. But before we get into the video, I would like to remind you to like, share, subscribe. If you do struggle with STPD, leave a comment below and let me know how that's going for you. And if you are interested in doing a podcast, we could potentially do that, just depending on certain circumstances. If you know somebody that struggles with this condition and you would like to share it as well, leave a comment below. I'd love to hear it. What is STPD? Schizotypal Personality Disorder. Like I said, it's a cluster A personality disorder, like paranoid personality disorder, which I just did a video on. So go ahead and watch that. It'll be up in the description and up here in a card. This is a really interesting one and something that I had kind of a hard time visualizing, but I did find a video with somebody on there. It's a cluster A personality disorder, so it's related to schizophrenia, so it could possibly turn to schizophrenia later on, but they won't diagnose somebody with STPD and schizophrenia. In a clinical setting with the almighty DSM-5, which is just a big TE conglomerate of billing codes, basically. It's not the most helpful thing in the world, but it's kind of the best we got in SJ land here. I think this can resonate a lot with INTJs, so go ahead and stick around and I'll talk about how it resonates with INTJs later in the video. And also talk about a little bit of comorbidity, which is a huge problem with the DSM-5. It can lead to wrong diagnosis and wrong treatment, so I'll go ahead and get into that as well. They say that 50% of people with STPD suffer from major depressive disorder, which everybody is diagnosed with depressive disorder, and ADHD, probably everybody fit the criteria in one way or another. And it's also really common with other cluster A personality disorders, which is schizoid personality disorder and paranoid personality disorder. As I mentioned before, it's related to schizophrenia and they share a lot of common traits, and people with schizotypal personality disorder can also have ABPD, which is something that I struggle with. So in order to meet the criteria for schizotypal personality disorder, you must meet 5 of the 9 criteria from the DSM-5. So the first one is a little hard to understand, and this sounds kind of like intuition in general, but it's kind of odd and out there. I do believe that personality disorders are just the cognitive functions kind of developed in a wrong way or an unhealthy way. This one criteria, it really sounds like intuition. Somebody's really, really deep into it. And this is ideas of reference, notions that everyday occurrences have special meaning or significance personally intended for or directed to themselves, but not delusions of reference, which are similar but not held with greater conviction. And I'll get into this a little bit later. The second one's odd beliefs or magical thinking, like believing in clairvoyance, telepathy, sixth sense, being preoccupied with paranormal phenomenon. Unusual perceptual experiences like hearing voices whispering their name, odd thought and speech, vague, metaphorical, excessive, elaborate, or stereotyped. And this is, again, they speak really, really abstractly like INTJs. We can speak metaphorically because we're an intuitive type, as long as other intuitive types, so we kind of speak metaphorically, kind of speak in riddles. But I think with schizotypal personality disorder, they do it in very odd, deep ways. They will just keep going off in these tangents that make no sense to us, but it makes perfect sense to them. Suspicions or paranoid thoughts, screwious or limited affect. They're very flat affect, kind of like how INTJs come off. One of the criticisms I get from my videos because I don't show a lot of emotion. And that is due to FE trickster, but we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Odd, eccentric, or peculiar behavior and or appearances. Lack of close friends or confidants except for first-degree relatives, excessive social anxiety that does not lessen with familiarity and is related mainly to paranoid fears. So this is something I had to think about for a while, how this affects INTJs. I think some of the criteria definitely relate to INTJs, not really having a lot of personal relationships, having a flat affect, like I said, coming off very monotonous and not really giving a lot of expression in their speech. We can definitely speak metaphorically, but I don't think to the degree that people with STPD do. It's very odd and eccentric. Odd beliefs and magical thinking, like I am into astrology. As you can see, the astrology videos that I've done in the metaphysical realms, but they might believe, like someone with schizotypal might think, like they see a car crash happen and they'll think I caused this because I read their minds and they got distracted and they let go of the wheel and crashed into each other's, or like I controlled their minds and made them do this. They really think that they have that sort of power. What's interesting about STPD, the cluster A personality disorders, they don't really care that they're different, but people with schizotypal kind of do. They do have this social anxiety that they're coming off weird, and that other people, that they kind of want to fit in, but they can't. So there is some social anxiety there, like schizoid and paranoid personality disorder. They really don't have this element as much. So they do have this thing about fitting in. Like I had a friend who I believe is an ISFP, and he definitely has ABPD as well, and dependent personality disorder, which is another cluster C personality disorder. It's kind of related to ABPD, avoidant personality disorder. Growing up, he believed that he was a vampire. He would hold that belief forever. And again, there's comorbidity, and you can show traits of one personality disorder and not necessarily be diagnosed with it. Until about 25, then he denied it vehemently, like that he never was a vampire. I also took a college course with this ENTP guy. I think schizotypal can definitely affect NPs a lot. First, not kidding you, one day he would dress as a leprechaun, one day he'd be a cowboy, one day he would be Odin or a Viking. And this is how he dressed every day. He showed traits of it, but he was a very outgoing, friendly guy. He didn't have a flat affect or anything like that, so you may not meet the full criteria. First criteria for STPD in the DSM-5 is ideas of reference. This is basically intuition. We're seeing patterns and symbols in everyday life and we're drawing them together. But again, they do this in a very odd way. So I think maybe this could possibly be either NE or NI, and it's just they're either too far in it or it's just distorted or something like that. They might, like I said, going back to the car crash reference, they might see a car crash, then they might pass by on the way to that car crash a tire store. Then they might somehow draw a conclusion that the tires caused it somehow, or there's a conspiracy that they're wanting people to crash, or it can be very odd. I feel for you having a personality disorder, and I'm not trying to downplay or criticize people with STPD, but you definitely view the world in a different way, and I'd love to talk to somebody with STPD and just kind of get your take on it. I know you don't really like to talk to people, and I can relate to that as well. If you try to talk this way to like an STJ, an ESTJ, or ISTJ, who are often a clinical psychologist and things like that, psychiatrists, they're probably going to think you're crazy, so be very careful about that if you just kind of see way things connect naturally. So they might try to diagnose you with something like this, so be aware of that. And there's also a paranoia element with STPD, like cluster A personality disorders, maybe not so much with schizoid personality disorder, which INTJs definitely fit into. They may think that people are talking about them, or they're egocentric and they're kind of the center of the world and everybody's thinking about them. And this could tie into any opposing personality as well, kind of ill intentions towards others have against you, and you kind of get a little freaky about it. Lack of close friends and confidants, that's self-explanatory. INTJs really struggle with this, or they just have a indifference towards people. Definitely INTJs have social anxiety, and that's something that schizotypals have. And it's very comorbid again with ABPD. ABPD is believed to be one of the most prevalent personality disorders out there, but people don't really seek out help because they avoid people. It's similar with schizotypal personality disorder. They kind of are in their own world and kind of don't care in a lot of ways, but they do have some need to fit in, and that kind of causes them some personal turmoil. And we do speak abstractly, like as INTJs, but again, it's very, very odd with schizotypal people. Like as an NI hero, I have this inner voice in my head kind of guiding me, and if I tell this to a psychiatrist or something, they're probably going to think I'm schizophrenic. So something I definitely don't talk about outside this channel very much. So if you do have mental health issues, or people are telling you have mental health issues, you might just be an intuitive. Well, if you like this content, please like, share, subscribe. If you struggle with STPD or know somebody who does struggle with STPD, feel free to reach out to me. My email's down below. I'm on Discord, where you can find me there. Leave a comment below. Thank you for going beyond the clickbait, and have a great day.